Good afternoon and welcome to another Micrographics webinar. Today we're going to be looking at a topic basically called Save Time Through Copy Design. Basically looking at reusing designs within Inventor using some various tools, why you would do it and how you would do it. My name is Carl van Rooyen. I'm the presenter for today. I'm an application engineer with Micrographics, and my email address is here on the first slide if you do have any questions or want to follow up after the webinar with anything. So on today's agenda, we'll be starting off with an intro, basically just around design reuse. Then we will go into why you would copy a design, then followed up by various copy design tools that are available. And then after that, we'll look at some tips for design reuse. How can you make it easier for yourself to reuse your designs? And then we'll close off with a summary and Q&A session. So having a look at our intro, I'm going to cover this basically like a scenario here. You're a design and manufacturing firm and you produce machinery that is tailored to suit a customer, but your machinery can be reused for various different customers. So maybe turnkey applications, but in this case of, let's say, a conveyor belt, you have a standard conveyor belt design that you reuse. But there would be customer-specific changes with regards to the sizing of it. So if we look at basically the same design specification, a different size every time you use it, would be a good candidate for copy design. I've just got 3 examples here for this, basically where we could see this type of workflow being used to save time in redesigning. And the first one we're looking at is material handling. Here basically we've got 3 different size hoppers, slight changes in each of them, and every time that hopper is reused for a different customer, there may be a different customer specification for that. The second one is processing equipment, and we'll have a look at this remote controlled concrete finisher and talk about why you would reuse designs or copy design in its case. And then lastly, also cabinetry. So here I've got a desk with various cubbies in it, shelves on it, and you know, once again, might be custom for each different customer, and you'd want to be able to change it as required. So to dig in a little bit deeper into each of these examples, if we look at material handling, whether it's a conveyor belt or a hopper, you know, the overall design philosophy can stay the same. You know, the same design spec. If you look at these 3 hoppers, they're basically constructed and assembled in the same way. They have the same spec, you know, same material thickness. The leg design is the same for all of them. However, every time you sell it onto a customer, the customer may have a specific requirement. The legs might need to be shorter or longer. The opening at the top and at the bottom may need to be different sizes. So you have to still customize it to suit the customer's needs. You could have your standard range of hoppers that you use. You design up one hopper and then generate your standard range, the various sizes, maybe a 500 mil, 800 millimeter wide, meter wide hopper, and that's kind of your off-the-shelf standards. But customers inevitably are going to want to customize. So we'd look at using copy design in the case of sort of this hopper and what we can do to help with creating new sizes. Then moving on to that remote controlled concrete skimmer, we're looking at sort of process equipment. You may be a company that designs equipment and you would sell hundreds of thousands of those units. And you might think, well, we're not customizing for every customer, but at some point in development, you're going to have to create a new model. You need to introduce new models. And now, do you design from scratch that new model? Depends on how many changes are required. Or do you copy the existing model's design and then modify it for the new model introduction, make the required changes so you keep the bulk of the same part that you change out and improve on other areas, maybe where there were failures in the old model. Clients may need customization, so you may get a client that wants a larger volume and they need customization due to safety regulations in the country they operate in. And so you may need to create a model that is custom for that client based off of an existing design. Also for R&D, you may create a duplicate of the existing model and use that design file for research and development, changing out the blades design on the bottom of the finisher, changing out motors, things like that. So you'd want to be able to keep the production model intact, but create duplicates that can be used for research and development, client customization. And the last example here that I've got for the introduction is cabinetry. Now, cabinetry, there is a very specific, companies have very specific design specs, how they build their cabinetry. So if you look at your kitchen, most cupboards in that kitchen are built in the same way. Their sizing is just changing, length, height, width. That information changes from cupboard to cupboard. You may have a row of standard cupboards, but to fit that last cupboard into the existing kitchen size or building size, you would need to customize its size. And so here you could quite easily duplicate designs and update, let's say, the width of the cabinet to be able to fit in the gap that is there. So those are three examples of where the copy design functions that we're going to look at would really shine and would be great use in saving time for designing or in the design process. So today's goal, we're going to look at the various ways on how we can take these designs and copy information and reuse information that is already existing rather than drawing it all from scratch. Now, why would you do this? Why copy a design? The big thing here is to save time. We want to be able to take a new project, look at the existing information in that project, and then look at older projects and see, okay, from that older project, what can we reuse? What can we copy and reuse so that we're not redesigning the wheel? We're not starting from scratch every single time. And this is important in a competitive environment. If you are bidding against other design firms, you are wanting to be able to get your bid out quicker than them, get it out cheaper than them. Designers cost money. So if they're designing something from scratch, you're paying for their time to be able to design something and build up a quote or a cost for it. So if you can reuse designs, you're saving the designer time, you're saving time on the quoting cycle. So you basically want to take and modify old designs, as mentioned earlier, either for new model introduction or for customer-specific changes. And as I already mentioned, you don't want to be redesigning the wheel every time, as well as, you want to be able to save that time during the process. So looking into our copy design tools, we have various tools at our disposal for being able to copy designs, whether you have Vault or whether you just have Inventor. Inventor itself, during your day-to-day modeling, you have options like save and replace, where you're able to take a component in an assembly, duplicate it, basically save a copy of it, and have that immediately get placed back into the assembly. So essentially automating the process of going and doing a file save as, changing the name, and then deleting the old part and putting the new part back in. It automates that process a little bit more. There is also a copy option in Inventor under the assembly patterning tools that allows you to take a subassembly or part and create a copy and apply some naming to that. Then we have the Inventor iLogic design copy, which is not used during the modeling process like the previous two would be. It's used right up front. You open up Inventor, no files open. You can go into the iLogic design copy window and you can load up a project. It will then list all of the drawings, Inventor assemblies, part files, presentation files. It will list all of the Inventor files as well as any related non-Inventor files and give you the option to select the files that you want to copy. This is a little bit limited when it comes to the naming. You can only really add prefix and suffix names to this, but it does include one or two other settings which are useful. So those three are built directly into Inventor for being able to duplicate design information. Then the fourth option that we have here is the Vault copy design, and that is built into Vault, whether you have Vault Basic or you have one of the paid versions of Vault, Vault Professional or Workgroup. There is a difference between them though. Copy design in Vault Basic is the older copy design, which had been around for years in the paid versions, but a couple of years ago it was overhauled, and now in Vault Workgroup and Vault Professional, which are your paid licenses, you get the overall basically new and improved version of copy design. That is the one that I'll be looking at today and doing demonstrations on today, as I have Vault Pro installed on my system. I do have a screenshot of the older copy design within the presentation, so you would see that as well. And then there are a myriad of third-party tools. I only list two. It's the two that I've used. But you know, if you had to do a Google search for third-party copy design tools for Inventor, I'm pretty sure you would find quite a few results there. The two that I've got, one that was designed in-house by Micrographics, and the other one which we'll look at also is purchased through Celly Apps that do the woodwork for Inventor. It is their assembly copier through that. Apologies for that. So looking at the copy design tools, I'm going to basically go through the different options in the slides and kind of explain the steps, but then I'll also go and do a demo of those. So the Inventor Save and Replace, the way this functionality works is that you would have your part open. You would then go and select either an assembly, sorry, you would have your assembly open, and you would either select a part or a sub-assembly within that, and you would then go to the productivity drop-down. And in that productivity drop-down, there's the option there to use the save and replace, or activate save and replace. And once you have activated save and replace, you would then be prompted to create a part. So you'll get that create part dialog box that comes up. And essentially here you can see in this example, hopper back was the part that I had selected in this example. And so the name there is automatically going to be hopper back copy. You can rename it to anything you wish. So you give it the new name, and then that part with the new name is inserted into the assembly. When you click save, the old part is removed from the assembly. Then the copy function in Inventor, that would allow you to basically follow a very similar process. You would select either the part or subassembly, and then on the ribbon on the pattern panel, you'd be able to grab the copy command, and that will then bring up a dialog box. If you have your part pre-selected or subassembly pre-selected, it would then list all of the, let's say if it's a subassembly, it would list all of the components inside of that subassembly. And in this case here, we see that the icons to the left of those components are slightly different. We have a blue one with 2 pluses in. That means that those files will be copied. They will be given new names. The red plus means that those will be reused. So if you have standard content center components, you can have those reused. You don't have to create copies of those standard content center parts. But if you have other parts in there like motors, gearboxes, things that you can reuse that you won't be changing, those can be included as well. So you would go through your list, set the specific actions that you require for each of those components in the list, and from there you would choose whether you want to copy the relationships as well, so that would keep any constraints applied between the components you're copying, and then whether or not the new components need to be grounded. Clicking next would take you to the file naming screen where you are able to change the file names. So we can see at the bottom of the screen there's an option to set the file name. We'll see that source file name and then underscore copies. So you'd be able to add in essentially a prefix or a suffix into the file name. You also have display name options and location for where to save the new components. And that there allows you to create a copy directly inside of the assembly that you're busy working in with some limited naming options. Then we look at the last one, which is built into Inventor, is the iLogic design copy. Basically, when you launch Inventor without any files open, you can then go to your Tools tab, and on the Tools tab there is a iLogic design copy option there, and that allows you to, or brings up, should I say, the design copy window that we see here on the right hand side. Now in that window you would select your project. That would then load up the folder structure for the project, and you can see the folder structure here is now split up into drawings, assemblies, parts, and non-Inventor files. And the nice thing with this is you can go ahead and pick a drawing. In this case here, I've got the RCCF main drawing selected, and it will automatically go through and find all of that drawing's children. And then in the other 3 windows, assemblies, parts, and non-Inventor files, those children are automatically selected. So the more drawings you select, the more children will be selected to copy. And so this way here, you can get all those related components copied. The only drawback to this is I haven't found a way to be able to multi-select drawings. So if you have a lot of drawings, you're going to be going down that list, clicking on the various drawings to select them. Once you've got all the files selected that you want to copy, you'd hit next, and that will then take you to the settings page where you can, sorry, one. Okay, that would then take you to a settings page. Sorry, see, I don't have the screenshot here. We'll have a look at that in the demo. That settings page would allow you to select where you're going to be copying the files to, so you can create a new project location. So this is a nice quick way of duplicating an old project for it to carry on with a new project. And you'd also be able to set prefix and suffix naming in that dialog box. Then moving on to the Vault copy design. So here for, this is a tool that's built into Vault. So for those of you that either are working in Vault Basic or Vault Professional, you would have access to these tools. So basically within your Vault client, you'd be able to right-click on a design and choose the copy design option. What we're seeing here is the copy design for Vault Basic. So this is the older style copy design window that we're seeing, and that is now what you would get in Vault Basic. And here you would be able to select right at the top of the window, you can see where we're copying the design from and then where you're copying the design to. So you would set essentially the file that you, or the folder that you want to create the new copy in. And then the grid at the bottom, pretty much the same icons for the status of the files. You've got that blue with the 2 pluses in to copy those files, and the orange for reusing those files. Here, though, you have a bit more flexibility. You would be able to use commands like creating copies of files, either reusing files, but you can also exclude files. So you can create a copy, and then you can create a copy and then exclude files that you know are not going to be inside of that new design. And also, there's a nice opportunity to replace. So you may be doing a conveyor belt, but the new conveyor belt is going to be longer. So you could replace the old motor for a new uprated motor as well. So during the copy design process, you're able to substitute components in or completely remove components. From a naming perspective, copy design has the ability to also find and replace. So you can find certain part numbers or codes and replace them in the names with new codes. I know some companies in their parts, when the part is specific for a job, they would include the job number in the part number. So they can do a search, a find and replace for that job number and replace it with the part number itself. So the Vault copy design gives you that extra functionality of being able to switch components out, do the find and replace on file names. And if we go on to the workgroup or Vault Pro copy design, there's a new an updated interface, and also gives us some more functionality as well. So for Workgroup and Pro, when you do a copy design, that is the window that you would see, and that window is laid out with various other sort of sub-windows within it. And we'll explore this during the demo that I'll do. We'll have a look at the various options we have. But the overall, what should I say, the enhancements here is that you can also run rules. You can create a set of rules that have to be run on every single part in the copy. So that rule could be something like blank out any custom R properties. So any values in those R properties are removed. It could basically reset properties or set different values as the components are being copied. So it's almost like scripting. You set up a rule for those components. It's easier to see numbering schemes and implement numbering schemes during the copy design process as well as the actions. So on the right-hand side there, you'll see one of the views there that you can view is the actions, and this will filter out to show you in the subsections where you can pick copy, reuse, replace. It will then show you a list of files that are being copied, a list of files that are being reused. So it's a nice way to double check your work. You know you have to exclude a few components. Go to the exclude panel and you can pick up, okay, yes, I've excluded the files I needed to. So that is the copy design in Vault Pro. We will have a more in-depth look at this once I've gone through the last little section. So then the last option when it comes to copy design tools are third-party tools. Design Cloner is one third-party tool that was designed in-house by Micrographics, and that's a standalone application that you can download. You install it, it sits on your desktop, And what you would do is you would run Inventor, have your design open in Inventor, and then launch Design Cloner, and it will connect with Inventor and load in your folder structure, or your, should I say, your assembly and your assembly structure. And then here you have basically a lot of the same functions and a few more. So you'd be able to add all your files in. You were able to do your find and replace, add prefixes, suffix. You can also search according to materials, and it'll expand on to presentation files, drawing files, and any OLE or external files that are connected to your designs. So that is another one of the third-party options. And then the second option that I have here that I listed was the assembly copier. Now, assembly copier, as I mentioned earlier, is programmed by Celly Apps, and they are the company that provide woodwork for Inventor, for cabinetry making and furniture making. Part of that software is this assembly copier, which they're also now selling as a separate piece of software. And it's a very similar process. You open up your assembly, you're able to rename your files. Much of the similar information as what I've already covered with the previous tools on here. So those are just two of the third-party applications that are available. So just to kind of round off, why would we use one of these copying tools? Why not just use Windows to copy and paste files? Well, the copying tools, as I've mentioned repeatedly going through them, most of them give you the ability to rename files. Whether it's a manual renaming process on some of the, let's say, the Inventor ones, or whether it's a actual find and replace process or adding a prefix and a suffix, you're able to rename those files. A lot of them have the prefix and suffix and also the find and replace option for quickly renaming those files. You can imagine with a design where there are a couple of hundred parts, it may take a long time to go through that list and rename those parts to be specific for that project. The biggest thing though with the copy design tools that Windows will never be able to really do for you is the ability for most of the copy design tools to find related data. So when you do your copy design, you can copy a drawing and it will find the assemblies and the related parts and copy that information with it. So you can quite quickly grab an entire project and copy all that information. One thing with the iLogic copy option is that you had to select the drawings and it found all the children. One thing I didn't mention about Vault is you can pick a part or an assembly and it will find the parents. So if you copy a part or an assembly, it will find the drawings and copy the drawings automatically. And leading us to the last point, re-referencing links to new names. Now, if you copy something, I'm pretty sure most people have come across this when they've renamed a file in Windows. Next time you open up Inventor, an assembly in Inventor, your assembly says, oh, can't find that file, and you have to manually relink that file to the assembly. Same thing with drawings. These copy design tools will maintain those relationships. If you change part A to part B, it goes to the drawing and they will relink that reference from part A to part B. So the big time saver is not having to go back in and fix all of those broken references created by renaming the files. And this is one of the important aspects of copying design and being able to save your time. If it's done properly, the only thing you have to go back in and check is your drawings, make sure that all the drawings are still looking good, all the properties have updated correctly, and then make any changes to the actual geometry itself if you need to. So I've been talking for about half an hour. I think it is demo time. We'll open up Inventor and have a look at what this actually looks like in Inventor. and then we'll move on to going through this in Vault as well. Let me just go ahead here and get Inventor open to choose a component to replace. Now, because I have a Vault project active here and numbering enabled in Vault, Vault is asking me for a numbering scheme to use. If you don't have Vault, you won't get this, so I'm just going to skip this one. And basically now it's asking me to change that agitator flange name to automatically put the copy option in there. So I'm going to go ahead here and go into the Hopper folder and just call this agitator flange modified. And then if we just have a look in the browser on the left-hand side, we can see there's the agitator flange, that's the original file. And I hit save here. That will update, and the agitator flange modified will now be in here. And this can now be used or opened up and edited to add any geometry to this. So I would then end up with those two different flanges. The modified one and the original. So let's just add a chamfer here on the outside. So we have the modified flange there, and if I go back into the hopper, I can also grab that original one and open up the original with no changes on the original. So that's a quick way of just copying an existing design, a single part file, and just quickly reusing that part file inside of a design. I want to go into this RCF main here and open up that assembly. And we can also do save and replace. I'm just waiting for my PC to respond. And here we'll see when we try save and replace, it will select single part files. So we can't do that save and replace on sub-assemblies. So save and replace is limited to those part files. Even if I try change the priority here, there's no sub-assembly priority option. So we're stuck to save and replace being limited to those single parts. However, in an assembly, we could go to the copy command and grab a sub-assembly. Let me go ahead here and just grab the blade sub-assemblies here. And that copy command will then list all of the parts in that sub-assembly. Now this is quite a bit. I don't want this to be processing for too long. So I'm going to just drill down and open up a smaller sub-assembly. Let's just have a look at one of these sets of blades. And from here we can activate the copy command. Oh, sorry, I need to go back one assembly. I want to replace the blades, that sub-assembly. And so now we see the components are listed automatically for copy, but we do have some components that are content center files, the standard content, so those are being reused. Now I may want to replace that entire sub-assembly, but I might not want to modify all the files. So I could still go in here and maybe I want to keep that trowel spider. So I'll change that to the orange plus and then the, let's say the lower universal joint as well. So there's some here, some options here that might want to be kept, like the bushings. So you would go through the list and mark those files as needed. Potentially they're files that you want to exclude as well. So these 4 trowel weldments would be the actual gray square bar and flat paddle may decide I want to actually exclude those completely because I want to put a new file in there. I might already have an existing design to replace this one. And so we can exclude those as well. Copying relationships on will ensure that the assembly stays constrained together. The new components I do not want to ground. We'll go next, and then in the next window it's going to generate a table to be able to rename components. So this may take, I think there's still quite a few components here. Okay, once again, Vault is jumping in here and wanting me to apply the Vault numbering schemes that I have enabled to all of these files. I'm going to skip this and we'll look at the manual way of renaming as if you don't have Vault or naming schemes enabled in Vault. So at the bottom we've got the ability to set new display names. I'll keep that as the file name, and then the new file name we've got here by default _copy. I'm going to just put in here new underscore and take the copy off the end, and we'll see the table at the top updates. Now at the top here we've got essentially showing us the display name and file name and the location, and you can also go into this table and you can do options, or you can basically do a find next, replace here in the table, as well as manually changing names for files here as well. So you do have a bit of flexibility here using this copy option as far as renaming goes as well. You're not stuck just to adding in prefix and suffixes. And so you would work your way through the table, do what you need to do here. I'm going to create a new assembly from this. I'm going to actually extract that out of this current assembly and just create a new assembly on its own. So all the components I'm copying will be created as its own assembly. Skipping again on the Vault and hitting OK. And this will now start the process of copying all those files. Okay, so here is that new assembly that was created. So we've got the new _RCCF_01, and that has all of the components in. I just want to go ahead here quickly and switch off all the work features and symbols. I was also the welds as well. And so there is that new subassembly. You'll see there's the new CF101SA_L. That was the subassembly that I've copied. So here's the original. And there's the copy. So we have those blades that are missing. Those were excluded during the copy process. And then we have all the new names, new underscore, and the bushings that were retained. So now I can continue and develop this further as a new, let's say, attachment or a new upgrade for that concrete finisher. If I go back to the original finisher, that original assembly is still in there. I could have done a save and replace, or I could now actually, if I wanted to, do a replace. So right click on that subassembly, go component, and then do a replace all, and replace both of those with the new copy that I've created. So we've got those new files. That's going to create a whole set of new files in that folder. I'm just going to save this before moving on. I'm not going to go through the iLogic design copy one or process. That is going to take some time, but I do want to show you, I had mentioned that I missed a screenshot of the settings page for that, so I'm going to close all this off and go back to that window. So Inventor's open with no files. You're able to go to Tools, and you will have an iLogic design copy tool here. This will only be here if you have no files open. You can't do this if you have something open. So selecting iLogic Design Copy will bring up the copy window. In this window, you can select a project, and I'm going to go here to RCCF main. That is my project that's not involved for this remote controlled finisher. And so here we can go and find a drawing. Now you can see the long list of drawings here. I can pick the RCCF main, that's the main assembly drawing, and it will go and scan and highlight all the related children. So it will check all the related children. So you can see here updating reference files is busy checking for all those files. And once that is done, we'll see check marks come up in the other 3 dialog boxes. And there we go. Now, unfortunately, if I right-click here in the drawings folder, there's no option or no way to select all of them except for doing the folder. So you could select the folder and it would then select all the drawings in the folder. So if you need to copy the bulk of the work, you can do that, select the folder, but then you need to go through and deselect the ones that you don't want to copy. And that probably wasn't a good idea for me right now for presentation perspective, because I'm now going to have to wait for that to search through all those files for their related children. We can see here Inventor working away in the background for that. I don't think that was a bright idea. Okay. Once that has finished, you would then be able to go next and work on the settings, prefix, suffix names for those files. So it looks like it's worked there. I'll hit next, and it generates a table with all of those files listed in the table. You can then add a target folder where you want the new design to be. You can add a prefix. So I'm just going to go with a copy of. You can add suffix. You can also choose to rename non-inventor files. So here there's an image, BMP. You can add that new name to that image as well. Also creating a new project. This would go through and create a completely standalone project, maybe to an existing design, but for a new customer, and you're making tweaks for that customer, so you need a new project. And one of the reasons for iLogic Design Copy existing is that you have the option to delete iLogic rules, or to be able to delete any rules or iLogic rules within the files themselves. And also you can choose to update the part number. So the part number will reflect as the new file name. So those are the options here. I'm not going to run through the process of starting it. I haven't set a target folder, but it's also going to take time to go through that process. And in the table here at the top, if I right click, there's no options here. So you're very limited with naming when it comes to the iLogic Design Copy function here. You can only really do the prefix and suffix. I'm going to cancel out of that one. And the last one that I have for you, actually running a little bit over time on this, is the Vault copy design. I'm going to do a very quick one here, taking that same concrete finisher and right-clicking on it in Vault and doing the copy design function. Now this opens a window that will list all of your files. Now it does not list drawings because it will automatically copy drawings. It'll automatically copy drawings as long as you have, what was it? Yeah, by default, they automatically copy parents, and it'll automatically copy the drawings of those files. Now, with this, you're able to grab a file. So here, RCF main, I'm going to go ahead here and say I want to copy to and then specify a new location in Vault. So I'm going to copy that into the RCCF polisher folder. So this maybe smooths over the concrete, but I want to create one of these that polishes the concrete. So new product development, I'm grabbing this old design and copying that folder, copying the main assembly into that new folder. Now this main assembly may reuse a lot of information, but what I want to do here is read or copy what I'm going to change. So quickly having a look here at what's going to change. We'll look at take this one here, the RCF01, and I'm going to once again do a copy to and copy that to the polisher folder as well. And then inside of that, I'm going to look at replacing some components. So we need to copy SA. I'll grab that here. So inside of the CF101 SAL, just to kind of show you what I want to do, let's go ahead and open this back up. What I'm wanting to do in this example is essentially create a whole duplicate copy of this design, reusing most of the design, but replacing the paddles at the bottom, the blades at the bottom, with an updated design on the blade that would be more efficient at polishing. So starting at the top level assembly needs to be copied because it's a new product. Then the various sub-assemblies going down also need to be copied as their bill of materials will be different. So just going back to Vault here, we've got that sub-assembly there that needs to be copied. So once again, I'm just going to copy that to the polisher folder. And the trowel weldment itself, that is what I want to replace. So I'll go here and I'm going to choose to replace that with something else. And so here we'll go find that file in Vault. Let's go get the RCCF, polisher. And did I not put those files in Vault? Okay, it looks like I didn't put those files in Vault. That was not, okay, so not a train smash. I created those duplicate files, but I didn't put them into Vault. So quickly going to drop those into Vault. Sorry, I'm looking in the wrong folder. So trowel weldment, sorry, I was replacing that from the wrong folder. So I want to go RCCF. Where did that go? RCCF, R&D, and there's the weldment there, replace. Okay, so there's replacing, and we have the actions column here, which is showing us what we're doing with each of these files. So we can see there that weldment there is being replaced. And I need to do the same for the opposite side as well. So that's the left-hand side. We need to find the right-hand side here quickly as well. CF101 SAR. Okay, tell you what, I'm going to copy of, there we go, there it is. Do that replace quickly. And this will be the last thing before I run the copy. So do the replace. Now, last thing that you can do just to double check everything is on the right hand side, you can check the new names. You've got the prefix options. Right clicking in this table allows you to set your prefix and suffix values. You can also do find and replace on your base names. So you've got all your same naming options here. And then the Actions tab is the tab that I quite like because I can now go and see copy. Okay, I'm creating those 3 copies. And then reuse, what's being reused, the list of all the files that I'm reusing, the replace option. Oh, okay. I think I'm going to have to stop it here. This is the one thing about doing live demos. Vault didn't like something I did there. Okay, so my Vault has crashed. I'm going to have to, so looking at the time, I'm going to have to stop that one there. But essentially, once I hit copy, it will then run through the process of doing all of those replacements, doing all of the renaming, copying, and that is actually handled by the Vault server. So your computer resources aren't used. The Vault server does it, and the new files will then be added directly into Vault. We'll do a get from Vault and continue working with them. So I think quickly, just to finish off, before we do any questions, is just some tips for design reuse. Use parameters as much as you can. If you can, link them to an Excel spreadsheet. It makes it easier to update the file. So once everything's copied, you go to that spreadsheet, you update the values in the spreadsheet, and your design can update. So the idea is design with flexibility in mind. Being able to make changes to the design and have the design update quickly is key to this process working properly. You want to be able to quickly just change a few parameters and have that design update. Making use of skeletal modeling or multi-body solids goes far, or will go far in helping in this process. This hopper that I have here is created using skeletal modeling. So I have a single Excel spreadsheet linked to a single part file that is the seed that creates all the other components. And so everything's linked back to that one spreadsheet. I can change all the various values in the hopper to update the geometry just from that spreadsheet. And something I haven't touched on, but I know we have had other webinars on it, is automating changes with iLogic. If this hopper goes over a certain size, iLogic could update the thickness to be a thicker material to keep the hopper rigid. Things like that. Conveyor belts, update the length of a conveyor belt. iLogic and patterns can help update how many legs you should have in the conveyor belt. So various information like that would help with automating the process of copy design once you've actually created the copy. And just to close off before we have any questions, if you are thinking of any questions or have any questions before I cover the summary, the chat panel is open for you to ask those questions in, and then I can answer them. So if you do have any questions, you can start typing them as I give the summary here. So, the summary, copy design allows you to stop reinventing the wheel. You can take existing designs, duplicate them, and continue forward with them, saving time in that process. You can provide a product to a customer, a custom product to each of your customers quicker because you're reusing data that's easy to change. You can basically duplicate designs with small changes or making small changes to them quicker, making the small design changes quicker. And overall, it would decrease your design time. It can decrease your time to quote, decrease the design time by reusing that old existing data. And then the biggest point I think here from a designing perspective, from a management perspective, is keeping those file references healthy. Making sure that once those files are renamed, you do not get any broken links to drawings, to external files, assemblies with missing references or parts that can't be found. So yeah, that's that would be a quick summary on why you would want to copy design. Also went through the processes of how to copy design in the various different places. So thank you for your time. I see I did run, starting to run a little bit late there through those last sections, but thank you for your time and sitting through and having listened. If you have any questions, the chat is open, all those questions, and I'll answer them. I will go ahead and answer those questions when they come through. Okay, there's no questions, so thank you for attending. And we have our micrographics offices, so if you have an office in your region, or should I say if you have any questions, you can contact your nearest office, and they'll be able to assist. Alternatively, right at the beginning of the presentation, my email was on the first slide. You can also email me directly regarding the webinar. Once again, I'd like to thank you for your attendance and attention for this webinar, and hope you have a good day.